let's bring this down and well, let's see if we've ruined it. Today, let's talk about something important. Bump steer. Excuse my crude drawing, but this is what we essentially have in any solid axle setup. We've got a track bar that goes from the frame, there's your vehicle, goes from your frame down to your axle. Then we've got a drag link that goes from your pitman arm over to your steering knuckle. And everybody says, and every kit says, that ideally, we want these two to be parallel. Now, that makes perfect sense as long as this bar and this bar are the exact same length. Because if they're not, they're going to travel in two different arcs, which is going to induce bump steer. And most kits that come out move your track bar up, and then you can flip your tie rod over, and that'll give you pretty close to good geometry, but it doesn't line it up properly. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take my Jeep apart, because I have one of those kits. I have a track bar lift bracket, and these two are perfectly parallel, but on a Jeep, this is about 32 inches, I think, for your track bar, and this is about 40 inches for your drag link. That's a big enough difference where if they are the same angle, they're going to swing in very different arcs. So we're going to take it apart and see if we can fix that. This should give you a little better idea of what we're looking at. So we've got our drag link and we've got our track bar. Now in my Jeep, they sit at almost exactly the same angle. They're maybe a degree off, but they're very, very close when you measure it off. But you can see how much longer our drag link is compared to our track bar. So when those travel in the arcs that they travel in, they don't line up. And so I'm going to try to take this track bar apart, this bracket apart, and build a piece that sits higher, so that way we can lift this track bar up and maybe get, I don't know, another inch of lift out of that track bar mount. Everything you've seen in that video up to that point, that's all correct. As I'm going through and I'm editing this video, I have since driven the Jeep. I didn't really do any math because I was just playing around in the shop. And I moved that track bar bolt up too high. And so it actually has made the steering worse. So the theory is right on this, but the application didn't end up working out. So if you're looking for a solution, I've got one. It's the Artec track bar bracket that I've got on order. But if you're looking for a solution in this video, you're not going to get it, because everything that I've done from this point on, I now have to cut back off and start over. So if you want to watch that process and hang out with me in the shop, great. If you're looking for the right answer on this video, then probably now is your time to click off and go find something else. Part of working in the shop for me is just learning things. And so a lot of what I do doesn't end up necessarily working the way I intend it to work. So it's part of the process. I enjoy it. It burned up an evening of messing around in the shop, but I learned something. I learned that math is important, and I didn't do math. But no, I figured I'd put the video up and show you guys that, people make mistakes too, and, this is the result. So if you want to keep watching, follow along. All right. Small. Excellent. 22? No. Another 22. Look at that. There we go. 21. Honestly, if you're not using the PVC pipe breaker bar method, you're really missing out. That's a lot of leverage. That's really tight. Well, you know, that wasn't moving. I think at one point I had a bit of a death wobble issue, and making that really, really tight was my answer. What kind of bad decisions we can make today. I have an impact, but it throws the audio off. So I suffer for your benefit. But we're gonna do a little bit. There we go. Not too bad. All right. That's out of the way. All those bushings look pretty good. How thick is that? It's gonna be really handy if that's 1/4 inch. .218. It's not 1/4 inch, but it's pretty close to where I think we'll be okay. Because I'm going to plate it, and I have to put something behind it. So, all right, easy enough. I'm going to clean up some of these old bracket mounts before we go any further. All right, so the plan is as follows. This bracket, something like this, is going to get put somewhere around here. That's the current plan. So once we do that, we might add a little bit of bracing, but it's going to be about 1/2 inch thick because I have to cut this off and then plate it so that way, you know, everything sits nice and flat. So it'll be beefy. I think it'll be beefy enough. We're just seeing how things fit. This is where front axle is stretched forward a little bit already. So if we in theory mount this on the back side of that bracket, it'll give us quite a bit of extra space. If you go far enough, then there's no going back. And that's how you know you're in it. Square hole.
I think that goes in
the circle.
The square hole. Now,
pretty close. Now, this may look a little janky, but trust me, it gets worse. Alright, so like it or not, this is what I've come up with. So this extends it up about 1.5 inches, and I did the same thing on the back side. And now I'm gonna do a little bit of this to pull that over. Since we are on the lift and I don't feel like putting it down, we need to take a little bit off there because it hits the bolt hits the weld. So I apologize if this video is a little bit sporadic. My girlfriend's not home and I'm bored, so I had to find something to do in the garage. There's a nut floating around here somewhere. That somewhat loose until we get down to the ground level. I need to clear some of that too. Shoot. No, we're not done yet. And I can't tell you how many times this has saved my butt when it comes to clearancing stuff. Alright, we're going to try that again. Get out of the way. Put this guy back. Beautiful. Let's bring this down and well, let's see if we've ruined it. Worst case scenario, our tech makes a really fancy bracket. And mind you, all of it is temporary. Because this axle is not long for this world. It's got 1 ton in the back. So we are just buying time until I can put a Dana 60 up here as well. So one step at a time.